Okay, we're going to start off with a short story with Moshe Yazgar.
Okay, Shalom. So we heard the following story. Shomer Torah Mitzvahs is on a plane, and the food is served. He opens up his food. He wants to go wash because he doesn't hold from the Mazonos roll, right? So he goes to wash, and when he comes back, he's not eating. And his seatmate there, who's not Jewish, asks, "How come you're not eating?" So he explains, "Well, we have this law that if you leave meat unattended, then it's and can't eat it." Why is that? Because we were afraid that maybe it got switched out. And the guy says, "You have amazing Torah because I always wanted to know whether there was a difference between the kosher meat and the non-kosher meat. So while you were away, I switched out a slice of your meat for my meat to see what it was like." So I heard the story many years ago, and then we told it over several months ago. And our chaver here, Yoel Rubinstein, said that not B'didi Hava Uvda, but his friend is that guy on the plane. So now the question is, what's the halacha in this story, right?
So probably that story is not lahalacha. In other words, you could eat it. You recognize it. But that chumrah, that might be a good hanhaga. Anyway, just make sure you have Tevias Ayin, and it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, you're Yotzei v'nichnas. I think so. I think it was 100% permitted to eat the food. But, okay, this is our sugya. What are we learning?
Or even if the guy didn't.
Well, okay, so that's something that comes up. Do you have to believe him? So you don't have to believe him. Midin, there's no edus whatsoever. So, however, if you do believe him, then it is usher for you to eat it. So you don't have to believe him, but if you just do, you do. What are you going to do? So then you can't. But and it doesn't have a din of usher for everybody else because he has no ne'amanas, but for edus. But if you believe him, you believe him. Okay, we're continuing with Kuf Yud Chet, Seif Yud Aleph, and just from what we had from before, just to clarify, I saw Psakim and Chuvas, Sagar Hadalit, when we close the door, that does mean it's locked, from a couple Seifim before, and that means the Jew cannot get in. It's locked and the Jew cannot get in. It's that if Sagar Hadalit is a problem because it's no longer Yotzei V'nichnas, that we're going to see the Ferush and the Shulchan Aruch in a few more simanim. And interesting, he brings many point out that a key nowadays to a door is as good as a chosam, because nowadays, generally speaking, keys are not easy to pick. Maybe it depends on the type of key you have. And as I just mentioned, as we saw over here for Tvi, and we're going to see this again, if you have Tvius Ayin, that's also another way that it's mutter. You recognize it afterwards and you know. Or if you leave food behind, we had this a little bit in Yud, and we're going to have it again in Yud. So if Yud Bet, that if you leave your food alone, or your house alone, and someone is in there, but you know it's yours, and that's also makes it okay. And he brings Psakim Mechuvas B'Shem Shut Avnei Yashpe, which I'm not familiar with, and he quotes Rav El Yashiv that if it's your own food that you cooked, that is something that you don't have to worry about it being switched, because your goy is not going to be able to recook your food and put it back the same way and taste the same as your food. So you're not afraid that he switched it and put back different piece of meat that looks and tastes exactly like yours. That's not likely to happen. Okay, so that's going to be relevant again when we get to Seif Yud Bet. So let's read Yud Aleph and Yud Bet, and we'll see. Yud Aleph, Kuf Yud Chet Yud Aleph. Yisrael v'goy sheshaftu shtei kederot zo eitzel zo. So you have a Jew and a non-Jew. They're cooking, they're buddies, they're cooking, I don't know, roommates in some places. They're cooking their pots right next to each other. Most of us are not going to ever see this scenario, but some people do. So you have your pot is cooking right next to the Goyish friend's pot, or strangers, whatever the situation is. Ze basar shchuta v'ze basar nevela. So one pot is full of kosher meat, one is treif meat. Right? This is based on the Gemara in Avodah Zarah. Mutter. The food is mutter. Your pot is mutter. His pot obviously is treif, but your pot's 100% mutter. Ve'ein lachu shema keshehichzir ha'Yisrael panav hichlif hagoy shchuta benevela. And we do not worry. Let's say the Jew, he's there, he turns around, or whatever it is, probably can go to the bathroom, whatever it is, he turns around, you're not worried, it's 100, your food is still kosher. You don't have to worry that the guy is going to now, the story in the airplane is going to come, take yours and swap a piece for a piece. You don't worry about that. Filu, in other words, it's not something that you have to be choshesh for. It's unlikely, and therefore it doesn't treif it up. You don't have to worry. Filu im shel Yisrael meshubach, even if the food of the Jew looks better. Filu pihen megula mutar, even if the pots are uncovered and it's a quick switch. Ve'ein lachu shema yitzu nitzotzot mizo lezo, and you do not have to worry of splashing. Most of us wouldn't like the scenario because we are worried, but certainly b'di'evet, you do not have to worry about a little splash from here and there. It's unlikely, or it's batal b'shishim, whatever it is. The Gemara has another thing that you're also not worried about. He'll, let's say, pull out the flame and restart the flame, and it'll be bishul akum. So you don't have to worry about bishul akum either, because you set it up all fine, and you don't have to worry that something that the fire went out and he redid it for you. Okay, because the case is where the goy is also afraid that you're going to turn around or open up the bathroom door in a second and catch him in the act. So therefore, since there's that mirtas and unlikeliness, you do not need to worry about it. Okay?
Mirtas is only when he's aware of the fact that
that you're there. Mirtas is...
or it's a virus issue. I don't want to mess with somebody else.
Well, I guess whatever the Metzias is, there has to be mirtas, and generally we assume that, unless they normally share food together, but I'm assuming that otherwise that can't be the case, otherwise it'd be aser. And so too, if it's roasting and there's not even juices, so that din in the Gemara is really a b'di'evet din. Lechatchila, you shouldn't really be cooking right next to each other, where it's easy to switch, easy to taste, and easy to have splashing from one to another, right? Okay. Okay. The Shach, though, he points out the case of lechatchila is only if the pots are open. And it's the way the Shach reads the Ramah, lechatchila, you can cook them together, as long as they're covered. Because for sure there's a mirtas. The guy's not going to come switch around. That's the case. We're assuming is you're not afraid he's going to switch around. But no, I'm saying as long as there's a mirtas, you're not afraid he's going to come open up the lid and close it. But even if it'd be open, that wouldn't be the issue. Just the Ramah is saying, in order to do this lechatchila, just make sure you cover it, because we don't want the splashing. That's what he's worried about. He's worried about the splashing. So that's the area of lechatchila. But otherwise, he learns the Gemara's din lechatchila. It's okay as long as it's covered, so you don't have the splashing issue. Okay, let's go on. Yud bet. Yesh lahachmir shelo laniach hakaderet etzel hashvachot kashein Yisrael babayit. So in Seif Yud, again, the case that we had earlier, depending how you understand that case, but let's say you have a goy coming and going in and out of your house. He can bring food with himself, and he can switch things out. That was Seif Yud, where everything's a problem, unless it's Yotze v'nechnas, or there's no benefit. As long as there's no benefit, which is also a big kula, generally I would assume on a b'di'evet cases, but for as long as there's no chashash if he's nene b'chalipin or he's yotze v'nechnas, that solves all the problems. But that's because there was a problem, that was Seif Yud. Seif Yud Bet that we're reading, it's your house, and you're having maybe a live-in, maybe not, but she doesn't bring any food. She's always in your house, and she's always eating your food. So you're not really worried about her bringing food in and switching food. So it's even more meko. And there's certainly not a chashash of nene b'chalipin. So the Seif Yurbet is really a case of a chumrah that the Rosh mentions, Nachon Yoreh Shemayim lahachmer, and the Tur and the Shulchan Aruch quote it as a chumrah that one should keep, which is you don't want to leave them in your house, but it's only where they have free reign to your kitchen, and that's a chumrah, but that's what should be kept. Okay. And the case also that's mentioned, it's not a case, here I'll keep reading, Hagav ve'eno yotze v'nichnas. It's not a case of yotze v'nichnas. If it's a case of yotze v'nichnas, she knows you're going to walk in the house at any minute. Now, you might not walk in for hours, but you might walk in any minute. So then that's a case of yotze v'nichnas, and then there's for sure no problem ever. Here, even if she knows you're going to shul, you're going to be there for 1, 2, 3 hours, whatever the case is. You're going to shul, you're going to the merchatz, and she knows you're not coming back for a while. So then it's not a case of yotze v'nechnas, as the Ramah points out. Even so, mi'ikar din, it's mutter. The case of Yud Bet is where mi'ikar din, it's all mutter. It's a chumrah that one should be strict. But you don't even need to be strict if it's constantly yotze v'nechnas. So let's finish the Ramah. V'im ira kilkol shenatan adavar eser b'kadera ein lahachila otav machal shelo yargila bekach. Now, so normally we said it's a chumrah, and one should basically, it's preferable not to have a maid in your house when you're not there, unless you're yotze v'nichnas, or some point out you have a camera. She sees the camera. She knows you're watching the camera, and let's say you check it once in a while. So then that's when it's that's what makes a mutter lechatchila. Otherwise, it's okay. It's basically, depending who you ask, it's going to be a little bit of a question mark. How far do you take this? If you have a maid in your house, but generally speaking, as long as she is not allowed to bring in food to the house and she's not allowed to use your kitchen to heat anything up, then perhaps lechadchila you don't have to worry about this chumrah. Depends who you ask. How far do you take it? How far do you worry that she's going to switch things? But if you actually ever catch her once, what's the big chashash in the Ramah? Is let's say she's going to take milk. She's going to warm up the food that's in your kitchen, because the seif is we're assuming she's not going to bring any food into the house. She's eating your food. But she's going to warm up your leftover cholent or your meat, and she wants a different flavor. She's going to add some of the milk from your fridge. And so since that's a worry, that's one of the reasons why you told her she's not allowed to mix meat and milk. That's why, but it's a chumrah, but it's an important chumrah, and therefore, as long as she doesn't have any right to use the kitchen, again, perhaps this doesn't apply. But anyways, let's say you catch her once using the milk. So the halacha is, she's not allowed to eat it. You have to throw it out, and you can't give it to anybody else. Because you have to show her that what you did is aser, and there's going to be no benefit from it. And so therefore, it's a little bit of a knas. It's aser behana. She did it. I don't know if it's aser behana. Special. If a goy, okay, whatever. If a goy does bishul, basar b'chalav, is it aser behana? I don't know. Okay, you're saying so? It is.
It is.
It is. Definitely, it is.
You can't smell straight from McDonald's.
Okay, sounds right. Even though it was done by an Anji, right? Lots of a show. Good question. I don't know. Okay, I don't know for sure, but okay. Try and show me later. I would like to see it inside, but it could be. Yud Gimel. Let's read. Let's read a Gimel. Yisrael she'asa gvinot bebeit goy. Okay, now a Jew makes cheese in a non-Jewish house. So you're in their factory, in their house. You're making your cheese. Everything is kosher, and you bring your stamp of made of wood, whatever your stamp, to make sure you stamp it when you're all done, so you know which is kosher and which is not. V'shacha chatfus beveit hagoy, and you leave it there by a mistake. So lacha, right? So again, everything really depends on the metzias, every case lagufo, but in general, the Shulchan Aruch writes, Ein chosheshin. We do not worry. Shema ziyaf hagoy v'chatam acherim be'otatfus. You don't have to worry that goy now is going to start making. You left your stamp behind, your hashkacha, whatever it is, or your stickers, whatever this is. You don't have to worry that because you left it behind, he's going to continue making his own gvinas akum, his own treif cheese, and then he's going to use your thing to show that it's kosher. You don't have to worry that he's going to do that. The Shach brings a couple of reasons because basically the goy is afraid you're going to find him out. That's really the bottom line. Because the goy he knows if he does it, you're going to find out perhaps, and he doesn't want to get caught. Okay. Anyways, depends on the situation. And you also don't have to worry that the goy is going to now take, in general, is going to take your cheese and smear some of his shuman from a pig, or whatever, non-kosher, on top of it. General rule is, as the Shach points out, whenever there's not a hana'a, the goy himself is not going to benefit from it, you're not worried he's going to do something extra to treif your meat up, unless he's going to benefit from it. V'yesh omrim, she'ein lahatir im shachach hatfus beveit hagoy, el im ken enichu munach al hagavino she'asa Yisrael. The only time it's okay if you leave your defus behind, your stamp, is you left it with your cheese in a spot that's miyuchad where you always leave it. But if you didn't leave it in your special spot, so then yeshlachu shema asa gvinas ktanim echlifa magadolim or yoter tovim, and it's aser. Then you're afraid that maybe he is going to switch it and he's going to do smaller cheeses, bigger cheeses. He's going to end up making some money out of it, and therefore, makom hefsed yesh lahatir b'chol inyan. But b'diavad and b'makom hefsed, assuming a big loss, not a tiny loss, so then it's mutter to assume he did not do that because it's unlikely, but it depends on the case. Okay, let's start with Siman Kuf Yod Tet. So Kuf Yud Chet was basically about mishloach, or having somebody come in your house. That was towards at the end, in your store. Kuf Yud Chet is more about, can you go to a non-Jewish store? Can you buy from a non-Jew? Or can you eat in someone's house? So let's read. Aleph. A person is chashir to eat non-kosher food. Beinim hu chashir be'eser tara, beinim hu chashir be'eser darabanan. He's known, and he's chashir to eat, whether it's food of an eser tara or an eser darabanan. Either way, ein lismoch alav bahem. You cannot trust him, and you can't buy from him. If a person doesn't keep kosher to 100%, then you can't buy from him. Ve'im nitareach imo. Now, what about can you eat in his house? So we're talking about someone Jewish over here, and he's chashuv to eat these items. So those items in his house, you can't eat. Whatever he's chashuv for, I assume usually it goes across the board, either yes or no, but it depends on the situation. So it's only for those things that he's chashuv, that's what you cannot eat in his house. V'yesh omrim. But according to the Shulchan Aruch, if it's just a stam person, normal stam, someone who's considered from, then it's then you don't have to worry, and everyone is becheskat kasher. Okay. Here, let's read V'yesh Omrim. Haga V'yesh Omrim afilu mimi she'eno chashir rak she'en makirin oto shehu muchzak b'kasher. So what if someone isn't chashir, but you don't know his standard of kasher, so you don't know if he keeps everything. Aser liknot imenu yain o shadvarim, then you cannot buy from him. Sheyesh lachush le'isra, because maybe you don't know him, and maybe it's treifah. And he's going to feed you stuff that's not kosher. Miu im nitareach etzlo ochel imo. But if you get invited to his house, then you don't have to be so strict. There's less money involved, and therefore you're allowed to eat in his house if you don't know if he's kosher or not. But the Stam Jew is kosher. But the Taz just points out from Darkei Moshe that he writes that the minhag is that we treat everyone. Well, the Taz just points out that the Darkei Moshe, who's the author of the Ramah, is more mekel in the Darkei Moshe, but then here he's more machamer, and the Taz says, well, nowadays we know that people aren't so careful, and therefore anyway, the halacha follows the Ramah. Okay, that's a little bit more. Bet im eno chashud lechol dvarim asurim, aval hu chashud lemochram. Someone isn't chashud to eat treif, but he is chashud to sell them. Again, it's business. For business, everything's mutter. So therefore, he might sell treif. Mitareach etzlo ve'ochel imo. Then you're allowed to eat in his house. V'chenim shaliach lebeito mutter. And if he sends food from his house, not his store, but from his house to your house, you're allowed to eat it. Because you assume he keeps kosher. We're talking about someone who keeps kosher. Just in his store, you might switch things to make a profit. So if it's coming from his house, from what he eats, then it's mutter. Haga, over avera leteyavon lo mikre chashir. So the Ramah writes, now a person who doesn't avera leteyavon, he eats non-treif. Sometimes he'll eat kosher, and sometimes he won't eat kosher, depending if it's the big price difference or it tastes much better. He goes out in restaurants. So these are things where you're over aver te'avon, but that doesn't make you chashud, and therefore you can still eat in his house. And the Shach points out, you're not chashud for something unless you do it when it's not lete'avon. All right, and such as you have both foods in front of you, and they both are about the same price and the same flavor, and you choose to eat the iser because you really don't care. So that's when you're chashid. Otherwise, it's l'tiyavon. And he just points out that we saw that by shchita we're a little more strict over there because it's normal for a knife to get a nick or to be pagum every so often. So therefore, you could be lax about it. So there, even if it's just for tiyavon, we're strict when it comes to shchita. But for this halacha, it's not a problem. Can we stop? Okay, we'll stop here.